Hi, welcome to Regenerative Revolution. I am Regenerative Enterprise Consultant Jackie Sersel, and I am here with David Braden, the leader of the Living Systems Institute and this Cook and the Gardener project that we have been working on for several months now. And we have two other people. One of them should be joining us here in a little bit, who have been working with us on this team, coming up with a business plan, coming up with startup strategies to get this thing up and running. But basically, it is a regenerative landscaping company that has gardeners trained to go out and work with homeowners. Just 4 hours a month is the basic package, and they help them transform their lawns into regenerative ecosystems. And there would also be other kinds of services available if they wanted to expand upon that. So that's the basic idea, and today we are going to have a tactical meeting. So I've got some notes here. Hank's not going to be able to join us, but hopefully Christine will. But we can go ahead and get started and do a bit of a check-in. Oh, and by the way, if you're joining us live, Christine will. Shh. I have to put it on silent. I was pulling it up so that I could see the chat room. If you are on here, then you can chat with us on YouTube. And it looks like Christine is joining us. So I'm going to give it just a second for Christine to get on here, and I'm going to figure out how to just mute. Where is the volume? There's the volume. Okay. Okay, I want to be able to see the stream and the chat room on YouTube. So if anybody's joining us, please go ahead and just say hi, comment, give us your ideas, your opinions. I did post about this event on Facebook, so we might have some people joining us today. And we do have Christine. So yeah, let's go ahead.
Sorry, I'm party.
It's okay.
David's house, actually. Yeah. Rush hour, no less.
Yeah, no problem. We just started. So first thing we're going to do is a check-in, and let's start with David. David, how are you doing today?
I am enthusiastic about the season and the way things are happening with Cook and the Gardener, and a little bit tired because this is the season where we have to start planting things. And I spent all day repotting tomato plants, and then a neighbor was digging up her goji berries, and I had to go get 4 of those, and they were bare roots, so I had to go deal with them. But otherwise, it's a good tired.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And Christine, how about you?
I am also so tired. It's a good tired, though. I'm with David on that. I am otherwise feeling good. It's like I said, it's a good tired, but definitely have some updates to share for this session.
Awesome, great. I'm feeling energetic, even though I just ran around. I just rode my bike over to a community garden and planted some goji berries and brambleberries and strawberries and pawpaw trees and other stuff. That's going nicely at a public park. I'm excited to do more of that sort of thing. I'm doing something similar to what you guys are doing here, and playing around with the dirt. So, all right. So yeah, let's dig into the meeting. And again, if anybody's watching live, please go ahead and say hi in the chat. I've got it open, so hopefully that works. And let's see, we start our tactical meeting, which means we're talking about day-to-day stuff, projects, next steps. And we start with a checklist. So we're going to check in with David here to see if you checked in with the gardeners at the end of the month.
I did, but we only have Hank actually doing any work, and he didn't claim any of the money, but we've still got, I think we're up to 3 homeowners actually paying, and we're up to 5 active gardeners. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have some of that actually paying some money out to gardeners fairly soon here.
So you didn't this month. That's mostly because this last month was kind of bad weather, right? Yeah. So yeah, the next thing is the metrics. So you have 5 gardeners, 3 paying homeowners. How many other homeowners do you have interested in right now?
We held an event actually on Saturday and had 5 people show up out of 11 RSVP guests on our meetup group. And one of the people showed up was one of our gardeners, Mike McDaniel, and he handed out his phone number to 2 of the other members. So people like the story, people want to participate. And I'm not sure I'm answering the question anymore. I'm starting to ramble.
Yeah, that's all right. Wait, so what number did you say? Was it 5, 7?
There's 5 active gardeners, counting Christine, but we can't count her until May 1st.
Oh, the number of interested homeowners, sorry.
Interested homeowners. I don't have a good number for you right now.
Okay.
We had...
we'll just leave it at 5, I guess.
Yeah,
somewhere around there. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Cool.
All right. So next is project updates. So this is just, we're just going to go around and each give updates on what you've been doing around the project. So we already have, and then if there's something that you need to discuss, we're going to put that on the agenda. So if while you're checking in about your updates, you think, oh, we should talk about this, then I'm going to add that to the agenda for the next step. All right. So yeah, Christine, you said you had some updates. You want to start?
Yeah, so as anyone who's been following, and as you two know, I am a full-time visual designer, and my design contract is coming to an end at the end of this month. Been kind of anticipating this, but you know, couldn't tell for the longest time if it's going to be another 5 years or if it's going to be next month. And turns out it's going to be April 30th, which means I could either continue down this path I've been on, which has not felt right for a long time, or I can go all in on the people's bees, which is really what the heart wants. And therefore also make myself a little more available to, which is a little bit of a different tune than our last meeting where I was just so afraid, in addition to my design work, I wouldn't be available for Cook and Gardener projects. So it's actually the opposite now. I will have, I'll have some time. I will be totally, I still have things going on with the people's bees, but I will have a little more availability. So I am diving in, and I'm terrified, but I'm also really excited. So that's a really big update for me. Because this has happened very quickly, as in a week ago. I've just been scrambling. Unfortunately, I've not been able to tackle I've been saying, you know, telling David I need to get back on the LSI website, but I can't keep my head above water right now. But May 1st, it's going to be a different Christine. So I'll be able to be focused and not in 10 different places. So that's kind of 2 updates in one, is my path and how that's changing, and also no progress on the Living Systems Institute website, which would also be Cook and Gardener Project website, but soon, soon. I might even put together a more concrete timeline so that, you know, David has something to look forward to.
Okay, great. Okay, and David.
So we've had some encouraging work going on. We've had, we started building a brand new Hugo mulch. And I'm doing really slow in order to give all of my gardeners an opportunity to come and participate. And so far we've had 4 of them come and do that, which is, we're just waiting for Christine for May 1st, and we'll put her to work there too. I've set it up with Alonso is coming Tuesday or tomorrow to learn the planting and the deep mulch part of it, and transplanting perennials. This event in the past has been cool season planting and start plants indoors. With COVID, I can't bring them into my indoor space. But those are the skills that our gardeners are going to need. And then the next one is warm season planting. And so I'm encouraged. We have 2 gardeners, Chris Adams and Alonso Ortiz, that are both talking about friends that they know and family and neighbors that they want to get involved. So I'm really pleased with that. Hank has moved to Edgewater and is going part-time and has been in touch with our Edgewater gardener. And then Mike McDaniel is, I had a homeowner in central Denver, south central Denver by Glendale. And Mike is in that area, so I put the two of those together. And last I heard from Mike on Saturday, he was getting in touch with Leo this week. So all of that is going well. And what I want to talk about when we get to new things is, so that part I'm entirely confident in. But if we're going to raise money, I think we need to be thinking about a different tactic. And that's the part I would like to add to the agenda.
Okay, tactic to raise money on the agenda. Okay, okay. And if I were to give any updates, I still haven't put the fundraising on my website because I'm having a bit of an existential crisis about that. I haven't quite figured out how everything fits together. I'm sorry. I should just do it. I think that's still the direction I want to go in. I'm just doing my own things too and trying to figure out how it fits together. But yeah, I think I still want to do that. But we could talk about that more as an agenda item because it kind of goes with that, you know, tactics to raise money. So that'll probably come up. But yeah, other than just doing my own community gardens and getting people involved in that, we have a call tomorrow, and I'm going to do it here on Regenerative Revolution with the other people here that are organizing a gardening cooperative. So if anybody wants to join that, that's going to be tomorrow, almost at the same time, I think an hour later or an hour earlier. I don't know. It's on my website, regenerativerevolution.org. Okay, anyway. So yeah, that's the updates. Moving on, agenda. Anything else we want to add to the agenda? Anything else coming up? I mean, I'm thinking about how to pay Christine. How does money go to her if she's going to be doing a lot of marketing and stuff? Or at least some.
My husband would like to know that too. Not from Cook and Gardener Project, but he's like, you know.
Yeah.
Leaving your job to become a beekeeper. Everyone needs money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be that there's some connection where we're helping funnel people, you know. So, but yeah, how does that work? Okay, yeah, let's just dive in though. Okay, tactics to raise money. What are you thinking, David?
All right, and maybe I would probably be better at this if I put it into an email. But let me try to be clear about what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So we have a certain amount of interest from people who have already have developed the sensitivity that they want to address climate change and habitat loss and poverty and violence in our society. But they're not the ones that are generally going to have money to support our work. So if we're thinking in terms of a different message to a different audience, the way that works in my mind is something like profits are at risk from these four wicked problems. Profits are at risk from poverty, profits are at risk from climate change, profits are at risk from habitat loss. And if we let the government approach those issues, then we're talking about taxes and regulation in order to try to address these problems. The alternative to that is what we are working on here at the Living Systems Institute, which I've called community sufficiency technologies, the know-how for a community to organize itself, to provide for itself. And if we could get this other audience that is concerned about their profits, as opposed to the audience that we're currently talking to, which is concerned about the future, then that's where the money could potentially come in terms of supporting our work to develop the prototypes of a community providing for itself. And then what we need the money for is to share that information throughout the world, right? To document and publicize our work in terms of communities providing for themselves. And so that's what I've been thinking about. And that's a different mindset when we go to do websites and how we're going to do our outreach. I mean, the outreach is the same when we're looking for homeowners and gardeners, but it's different if we're looking for money.
Interesting. Yeah. So I want to ask Christine what she thinks about that. And I also want to ask the audience. If you want to type while Christine is talking, we can integrate your thoughts. I think we have at least one person watching, according to YouTube. So, Christine, what do you think?
We need 1,000 persons watching.
Yeah, so many.
What immediately comes to mind is how much it would be helpful to have a couple people contributing to this conversation, a couple other people outside of the silo that the 3 or sometimes 4 of us are working within. I feel like with David's ideas right now and the progress we might be able to make soon, I think it would behoove us to start reaching out for some outsider knowledge from grant writing, finding a grant writer to someone who might be, I wonder if anyone on the board, David, could contribute to a little bit of this. I'm a very active board member. I think that we've got a team lined up of other people who might be able to contribute to this conversation a little more. So fresh thinking. Not to say this isn't fresh, it's just more perspectives I think would be really good to kind of help us get to this next step. And taking a look at what other similar nonprofit organizations are doing and how they're able to obtain some of that security. What comes to mind is Wildlife Federation is one organization that I'm a part of. It's just off the top of my head. And we could do a little more research to kind of just take a look at some other models and the way that they operate. That's what comes to mind for me. Which I think is a good step, a good place to be in is wanting to now look beyond ourselves and maybe get a little bit of inspiration and be able to see the horizon a little more.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because it's like I'm seeing lots of possibilities, but nothing specific. Like grant writing is definitely a way to go, especially since you have a 501c3 working with this, but what grants are available? I mean, until you just really dig into that, you might come up with a great idea of a way to expand by like doing a garden somewhere that could get a lot of attention or something. But yeah, without seeing what's available, I'm not sure.
And I began to look into that. I have zero experience with grant research and grant writing. And I learned, I also tapped the shoulders of 2 people who are very well versed in this, in one area specifically of conservation and sustainability, but out of state, and the other one not in conservation or sustainability or agriculture or anything related, but within the state and very well connected in the nonprofit world here in Denver. And I quickly learned just how much that time and effort and expertise that requires, and I realized it's completely beyond my wheelhouse. But it's interesting, you know, I believe that there is a lot out there. But the time that goes into applying fees and everything. So I think that could be so helpful to make nice with someone who's willing to help us, or in addition to everything, Jackie, that you're helping us with, but from that financial perspective.
Yeah. I mean, grant writing is also something that I do. I have gotten several grants. I've probably gotten about $50,000 in grants. But it's a huge pain in the butt. Huge pain. And they say, oh, you'll get the money in 6 months, and then you get the money a year and a half later. It's that sort of thing. It's a real pain, especially for the larger grants. Now, if you got like a small grant from the city or something, maybe, but they usually make you jump through a lot of hoops, and you got to follow all their rules, and you have to like track everything and submit reports and do a final report and blah 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 blah. And it's like writing a freaking master's thesis. It's about that much work.
Yeah. An idea that came up actually while you were speaking, Jackie. So we have talked about Cook and Gardner Project treating that as an LLC, but an extension of Living Systems Institute, if I remember correctly. So if we consider this a for-profit, that changes things. I for myself, for the People's Bees, have been looking into for-profit business grants, which didn't know those existed. I thought grants were just for nonprofits, and it's so difficult to become a nonprofit. I was very discouraged, but I have recently learned that no, there are grants out there for startups, and so if the LLC route is one that we take for Cook and Gardner Project, that could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Something else to put on the table there.
Yeah. Or a cooperative.
Social enterprise is a term that I learned. That's something else.
Yeah, it just seems like we need to do some research. Somebody needs to do some research. So maybe if you could find somebody who is just gung-ho about doing some looking into that, or somebody who's already done it, maybe somebody who like works with the Denver Permaculture Guild who's already looked at what kind of grants are available for that sort of thing. Maybe you just need to tap on their shoulder and say, hey, do you know of anything out there? Because I'm sure there's people that have actually done that research. Okay, yeah. Does somebody want to ask around just to see what kind of funds and grants are available for gardening sort of things?
So just to make the comment, I think we still have two different issues. And I agree that we're going to have to incorporate the Cook and the Gardner project one way or another. It's a cooperative regardless of what kind of legal structure it is. And there is ways, or Carolyn anyway was saying that there is money out there for cooperatives. But if we're going to raise money for LSI to promote this different way of looking at the world, then we're going to need a different message. And be looking at not so much for the projects that we might be doing, but the outreach in terms of paradigm shift and the documentation and publication of our research and prototyping efforts. That's my long-term goal, is that we can demonstrate how the Metro Denver area can become a community supporting itself, and that communities all over the world then adopt those techniques and apply our lessons in their local areas and address habitat loss and poverty and climate change and violence in our society. And so I just want to open that up, that we're used to looking for progressive sources of funds, but what we're also talking about is a social safety net that is not a tax burden on the economy. And I've written about that before, not very extensively, because with my current audience, I'm not getting much feedback on that thought. But I think that may be where the money is. So
I see what you're saying. And I think you're looking for kind of a hook to hook people, hook a new audience, pull them in, which is great. I think that, having a really clear funnel though to bring them into, so like here's the introductory ideas, and then getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the subject, and kind of where are you leading them? What do you want them to do with that information specifically? The kind of the work that you're doing with Christine on the website, I think is going in that direction too. I mean, I've definitely been in that position where like, I want to tell everybody, but then you got a bunch of people and you don't even know what to do with them. So like, really knowing what you want to do with that energy, and having it laid out really clearly, I think is kind of, is all part of the same project. Were you going to say something, Christine?
Yeah, I was, on a slightly different note, I agree with Jackie. And on a slightly different note, David, you mentioned research and documentation, and I might have missed it or misinterpreted it, but did you say that we need better documentation of our research? Or does that exist somewhere? We need to convey it better?
Sure. The website is the documentation that we have on what we've been doing so far, which is our projects and prototyping patterns of interactions that heal nature and produce abundance. And that documentation could be, is in process of being updated, and could be a lot clearer, and we could have, as Jackie has mentioned in the past, a way to enter knowing what you're looking for, I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess that's in the language then. You caught my interest with research. That is a key word to me. If there is real research somewhere documented, I would love to see it. That is going to be something we're going to have to broach anyway as we, tackle content for the website. But if there's, we're starting to talk about data and science, so that's interesting. But where is it?
Well, so we're not a reductionist science operation. We're a holistic science operation. And so it's the difference between breaking things down into their individual pieces or trying to understand how things operate as wholes. And that's in the Ages of Habitat series. And the proof is in what we've been able to accomplish in terms of the vitality of our gardens and the participants we have. Now that can be documented in a lot of different ways if we had the money, which is to, as Jackie was talking about, somebody lady is into soil testing and wants to practice her art. And I would love to have people like that. We would love to have more links into academia to actually do testing on some of our, are we in fact producing more nutrition than traditional gardening, because we have a full ecosystem supporting the plants. There is a lot of that could be done if we had the money.
Yeah.
And
I think that would obviously, I guess I just want to repeat what you said. That would be wonderful to have when we say research. I don't think all research is reductionist. I think if we're talking about being holistic, that should include data in addition to proof of concept. And I think when it comes to asking for people to contribute to this, some people are more interested in seeing everything that proof in the form of data that you just mentioned. So that's a whole other challenge, is how do we obtain that? It's so much of this is like cart before the horse, right? That's what I'm learning in this. How many months are we into this? About 5 months now, I think. I'm starting to see a lot of cart before the horse, and that's just naturally figuring out, and untangling the challenge that we have together. It's like, we can't do this until we have this, and we can't do that until we have, X, Y, and Z. So it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm just emphasizing the issue we're all facing. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, what David just mentioned, and I should have said this in my updates, was that I just talked to a girl who's taking a Lane Ingham soil course there in Denver, and she offered to do soil testing for you guys for free. So, yeah, like somebody like that on board and having regular soil testing done, that's great. It's just where to put that information on the website so that it fits in with everything else and is easy to find and makes sense. And maybe you need more interns. Maybe that's an angle. I think we just kind of need to set a direction here. Are we really going the grant route? What kind of grant? Because there's all sorts of grants, but they're really specific for a certain kind of research, a certain kind of project. So, I mean, maybe we need the cart before the horses, that before planning something, we need to look at what money is out there. Maybe it's actually fitting the strategy to the money that's available. If there's a money available to hire a bunch of interns to do a scientific research, then that's a great angle. You'd have all these gardeners doing research and getting paid by a grant, and then we can just use the money coming in from the homeowners to fund the startup.
Yes.
For example, we could have a study on the increase in carbon in our soils. If we can find some sort of measure that is going to be acceptable to the scientific community, since our soils are essentially just carbon. It's a little bit different than what most people are thinking about when they say increases in soil carbon. But
yeah, you have to do some good soil testing. I mean, she's specifically looking at microbes. You want to send things to like Logan Labs that looks at the total minerals available, not just the mineral salts in the soil, that sort of thing. But yeah, there's lots that could be collected. But yeah, you want a grant that's specifically for that.
Sure. And so, there are people interested in regenerative agriculture, or in our case, regenerative landscaping, but that's going to be a limited source of income. So I'm not saying we're ready to do it, but we need to be thinking about a different audience, an audience that may not know that they're interested in our work. Because our work is also does not fit the typical charitable model either. Because we're asking people to take responsibility for their own lives and take responsibility for the health of their community and take responsibility for the health of the earth, which is a little bit different than most charitable organizations.
I am realizing too, we're drifting away from Cook and Gardner Project. I know they're all interrelated, but we are really scaling back from a higher level, talking about Living Systems Institute and your mission for your 501c3. And I mean, that is one potential avenue for funding to trickle down into Cook and Gardner Project. But I realize it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just wanted to point that out, that we are kind of pulling back to talk about the larger picture, which is important. I'm actually feeling the need, I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling the need to look at that business plan Jackie originally put together to ground ourselves in that. I feel us floating at the moment. I don't know if anyone else feels that way.
I can pull it back up. I do feel like we were pulling back, but I mean, it just might be that an influx of money through LSI could help things take off in some way.
Absolutely. I feel like I've been saying this since the beginning, and I wonder, why didn't we start there? I mean, because the 501c3 is established, and Cook and Gardner Project, we've put so much time the last 5 months into recruiting gardeners and losing gardeners and trying to get new gardeners and homeowners. And yeah, I think going back to the 501c3, and it's a parent company or a parent organization, a parent entity, and it needs to feed the baby, so to say. I think that would be a good route. But if that's the route we're taking, I feel like our future conversations together will sound differently than they have been. So
no, I don't want to abandon the Cook and the Gardner program, but that's one of our programs that is developed with an idea of prototyping this community sufficiency technologies. And all of our projects are directed toward that: the Be Safe Neighborhood, the team gardening, the deep mulch gardening, the High Plains Plant Propagation Cooperative. Those are designed for a community to come to work together to provide for themselves without having to engage the money economy. I agree with you entirely that they're separate things, and the Cook and the Gardener program is, I'm really excited about it because right now I've got these 2 new gardeners and potentially you coming on that are ready to actually commit to building a client base in order to fund your own lives, right? To make that as significant. And so I'm feeling really good about how that's going, and now I want to put that in a larger picture, which is different, but we still want to raise money in order to share this with a larger audience. And so which audience are we going to choose is what I'm raising today.
Is it about the audience of the donators or the homeowners though, or is it the audience actually of the gardeners that we should be focusing on? Because if you had a research grant, you would be able to recruit more like students who are like in biology or agronomy or whatever, and get them in the program. And it might actually be easier to recruit homeowners if you can like promote the fact that your gardeners are doing research through a grant.
Well, it's possible, and I'm not opposed to that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to raise this other possibility. And so when you talk about regenerative, cooperative, I forget the name you used for it,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to have a source of income to create new cooperatives around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Who are going to be the funders for that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah, and that might be more the angle I'm taking if I get this fundraising campaign set up to fund the incorporation for you guys. Would be more trying to get people who are just interested in new economic structures, to fund co-ops basically. And so that's not necessarily people who are interested in, the birds and the bees. Maybe they're more interested in money. But it's a different angle. I agree. It's a good thing to consider.
Okay. In the meantime, we need to keep pursuing the Cook and the Gardener program. And when we do the website, there needs to be a window for homeowners. There needs to be a window, an access point, maybe for gardeners, and then maybe an access point for funders is what we're talking about next, right?
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, let's go to that as maybe even a separate agenda item. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's the same one. Okay. I will put up this fundraising campaign, I promise. To do this, I mean, unless you guys want to do it differently, do you want to have another fundraising campaign in addition to that? What would that look like? So that portal, is it just going to this fundraising campaign that I'm creating, or do you want to have another one too? And what exactly is that funding?
I don't think we're ready to do it. And I agree with Christine. We want to do some more outreach to people who are in the field. I will send an email out to the 4 of us with that community sufficiency technology stuff, and what I have written about how it's a social safety net that isn't a tax burden on the economy. And then as I just want to keep that in mind as we move forward, because as this is another thing that Carolyn told me, is that when we have proof of concept with the Cook and the Gardener program, then we're going to have a lot more doors opening in terms of potential funding. Right now, it's just something that people don't understand when we talk about it. When it's concrete and is actually a standalone organization, then we'll have proof of concept that people will be interested in trying to understand more fully.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I just made a note for myself to get that campaign up, and if you do put a link there for donating, then it could just go to the page that I've created for you guys, and I'll go ahead and get a fundraising campaign on there specifically to fund incorporation fees with a lawyer. Okay.
What is the goal amount to fundraise?
I'll probably make it 10,000.
Okay. What are incorporation fees?
I mean, to the state, the actual fee is like, yeah, $50, but a lawyer, you know, at least reading over bylaws, if not writing the bylaws for you, is quite expensive. And I've talked to I've talked to Jason Weiner, who's there in Denver, extensively about such things. And, you know, his website isn't specific on pricing because he charges per hour, and it really depends on how long it takes. You know, he's a business consultant. He'll sit there with you for hours and hours, just like I have, talking through your business idea to help you figure out what you're doing, because you have to do that before he can write bylaws for you. You know, but if you go in with an already drafted copy of bylaws and he just has to read through it, it takes less of his time. But like, if I'm going to sit there and write your bylaws, I'd like to get paid something, you know, not as much as he would charge, but I'd like to get something for it. So, you know, I mean, in all, hopefully it's less than 10,000. Hopefully it's closer to 5, but it might be 10,000.
Okay. I'm just trying to, what I'm thinking through right now is when we ask people for money, we should know exactly how much and exactly where it's going to and exactly how it will benefit them. Any campaign or fundraiser I've ever done, I just feel like we should be more concrete about that. And Jackie, something you said, like, absolutely, you should help us with the bylaws. If that saves Cook and Gardener, if you're willing to, of course, and get paid for it. If that is a little more of an economical option, you're already so invested in the project, that would be wonderful. Instead of starting from square one with, you know, another talented person. But
I mean, hopefully it would be like, you know, maybe 2,000 to me and 3,000 to him or something like that. But you know, if he looks at it, it's just like, oh, this is complicated, and he takes
and
more time.
And I'm sure he will, and I don't even know who he is, but I'm sure he will think that. And because you're so invested and you're tracking with what we do know, I for what it's worth, David, I vote we absolutely work with Jackie on a preliminary draft anyway of those bylaws, and that only makes sense to me. That's more efficient, that's more cost effective. But I think that for the fundraiser, knowing exactly how much money that will cost and exactly where that will go, because that fundraiser budget leaves no room for, you know, advertisement and promoting, you know, and marketing efforts.
Well, I mean, what if we did both? We could have t-shirts or something. We could have some sort of marketing material that goes with donations. You know, I mean, maybe that's really the thing, the value, you know, like we make a really cute t-shirt and it's just like, people are like, oh yeah, I'll buy that $30 t-shirt, you know, but it's only costing us $10 to make, and then we make $20 on each sale.
Yeah, this all brings me back to Bonfire, which I suggested in Kickstarter, to incentivize people, to give them something of value to contribute to it. I'm fully on board with that.
Okay.
It's a big production though. If you put me on something like that, I'll be super perfectionistic about it, and it'll take a lot longer. And David, that's where we started talking about video for storytelling for LSI. And as we're talking through this, I just to shift things onto myself really quick, I can't be the 5 things at once. My life is taking a new direction, but being on the board, keeping bees on the property, bringing education to the property, being on these calls, and then also campaigning and gardening. I can't do it. So I have to pick a lane too. But going back to fundraising though, having a concise plan before taking action, I think is always so important.
Yeah. And that's the existential crisis I've been in. So, I mean, maybe I should just come up with some really cute stuff, some merch that goes with what I'm doing, Regenerative Revolution. And then I could use that same merch for all of these different projects because they're all interrelated. They're all about regenerating the planet, right? So I could just come up with a bunch of things and then put those on all these different campaigns.
I love that idea. I think we need a fundraiser plan first, just to figure out like what is the quantity of things that we'll be able, what can we invest in early on? We have to purchase these things first and then resell
Sort
them.
of. I mean, there's actually the like print on demand services.
Bonfire is one, you're right. That's just like provide the design and then they'll take care of it for you. If we wanted to hang our hats on that, we could do that. And that tool makes things really simple. Kickstarter, on the other hand, you have to have, and these are just the tools I'm familiar with. I know there are more out there, but you have to have the merchandise on hand. But I just
do you though? I mean, aren't some of those Kickstarter projects like you can have the prototype ready and then you just make it all after the campaign ends?
You can do that too, yeah.
So I just take the orders, but then you have to have a time frame.
Production, and that will be wonky during this time. I've contributed to Kickstarters that have suffered because of production lead times due to COVID at this time, and it's just a little unpredictable.
But
I mean, that's all I'm saying. I'm just in favor of strategy before throwing up a page is all, and knowing. And if we need more, if we sit down and actually bang out a plan for a fundraiser campaign and realize, oh shit, we need 15 or 20K. I'd hate to, realize that later on.
Yeah. Let me look at that bonfire. Let me look at the other things out there that are available to do that sort of thing. And maybe I can come up with something that makes sense. Okay.
Well, so while we're throwing up wishes, I also wish to raise about $2,000 for Ethan McCutcheon to do his Cook in the Gardener documentation video.
Okay.
So we have a bid from one of our homeowners who works with CU Denver Video School. I forget exactly what he called himself, but he would have his students go out and do interviews with homeowners and their gardeners and put together a documentary about how it works, what we're doing. So anyway.
My mind wanders when we start talking about money and asking for it, because there's just so much need in so many places. Something else that comes to mind is just something to consider. It's not an absolute necessary, but it would be nice to have a little bit of padding, even if it's just $5,000, to be able to pay new gardeners that might express interest, to be able to pay them in advance while we're also generating. It's all about cycle and timing, but while we're also generating new clients. So just having a little bit of padding there so that we're not losing gardeners just because we don't have homeowners or vice versa, right? Some sort of padding there I think could be helpful. And we are just spitballing right now, but
or at least to pay people for marketing, to help out with marketing, even if you're going around hanging up door knockers or something. I mean, I don't know what we can get, but let's see.
Well, so we do need some support for the gardeners in terms of finding clients, but still, for the gardeners, it doesn't really make sense for LSI to be out there looking for gardeners because they're going to be spread out all over the city. More as a more practical approach is to have each gardener canvass their own neighborhood.
Yes.
And if they can find 20 homeowners in the same block, then they're golden. They can do all their work without any travel time. Instead of traveling around all over the city to get their $25 an hour for when they're working. That's that's where I want to put that effort in terms of the marketing, is to assist the gardeners in their efforts to find their own clients.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an aspect of them actually having to talk to people, like actually go around and knock on the doors, say hello to your neighbors, and have a conversation with them rather than just, you know, throwing up a door knocker and running away or posting on Facebook. And yeah, the incentive of, well, this is how you need to do it to get clients, it makes sense. But I don't know, another part of this was, though, having some other space for people to grow in where they could be making more money growing larger amounts for the cooks, right? So maybe looking at a space to have a larger garden in, to have more production in, and they could get paid for that so that they have some income even as they're building up their homeowner clientele. So maybe that's something that could be accomplished through getting grants to get that space or something like that.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Lots of startup costs, honestly. Sometimes I wonder if we're asking gardeners too much of gardeners.
Mm-hmm.
David, the picture that you're painting, I think, is a lovely one. I love it, but we're looking for unicorns. That's what I worry about, is that someone who like has that initiative when, I don't know, a lot of the gardeners I know are pretty antisocial, actually.
That's true.
And, you know, maybe lack business sense. And, well, that's not fair for me to say. Sorry for the gardeners listening out there. That's not fair to say.
I have to agree, though. That is kind of common.
Okay, well,
it's
yeah,
kind of
we're more
common.
introverted. If they were in it for starting their own business, I think they would go and start their own business and not necessarily need the Cook and Gardener project to do that. I like the idea of being able to provide marketing materials, but then we're creating an incubator. And maybe that's the goal, and we've just not even really come out and said that yet, but creating an incubator for training programs and education and outreach rather than the actual gardening work itself. And that's where I feel like things get muddy again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so that's one of the things that I talk to about with all of my gardeners, is that it would be perfectly okay with me if they just wanted to go out and find 20 clients and call it good, have their own little business. But there's also this other possibility where if the gardeners can cooperate and pool some of their money to do those things that they don't want to do, like billing and health insurance and the promotional work, and they can form a cooperative that takes care of those parts of it, then we're talking about an organization that can have 1,000 gardeners and 20,000 homeowners. And at that point, then we need cooks and things like that.
Yes.
So right now I have 3 gardeners, counting Christine, who do have that business sense and that drive and that ability to go out and find their own clients. And as soon as we have them with 20 clients, then as new gardeners come on, we can put them to work with existing gardeners to show them the ropes, to make sure that they understand everything that's involved, and then have them go out and and find their own clients, which I'm perfectly willing to do, where I can set up an event like we did this last Saturday and give them the link that they can circulate through their neighborhood, particularly if they've been on nextdoor.com and have some sort of presence in their community, and have them bring their potential clients here. And that's what I was saying earlier, that Mike McDaniels was here with our other 4 clients, and he handed out 2 business cards. Where he actually put his phone number on my business card, but you know, the interest is there, and you just have to we have to present it in a way, and that's what the 2-hour presentation. And by the time we sit down, people are ready to sign up. So I don't have any problem with that part of it. What I have problem with is it would be nice to have support from the wider community so that we're not doing this entirely bootstrap.
Mm-hmm.
My dog's about to go off.
I want to say that we do have someone watching, and they commented. We have an audience member. Bethix 71 says, "Hello there. I currently manage a bakery and have been working towards farm to table in my rural hometown. Thank you so much for this." She gave me this emoji. So maybe not in Denver, but she's watching. Awesome. Hi. So yeah, it feels like we've kind of hit a bit of a wall on this one. The next agenda item is how to pay Christine specifically. How do you want to get paid, Christine?
Honestly, I'm trying to build my own business right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm more worried about how to put this thing together for David. I'm increasingly concerned about just feeling aimless and a lot of times, to be very frank with you guys. And where to begin, just finding the starting line. I personally, this is an opinion for what it's worth, I don't know, David, about encouraging our gardeners to just go off and do their own thing. That doesn't sustain the Cook and Gardener project. It's a great positive thing to put out into our community, but we are trying to build something at the same time, and I think keeping a network of people is key. I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know that I would be encouraging, like, take advantage of us. We have no money, but take advantage of us, and we're struggling to get help. Take advantage of our services and then go run with it for profit for yourself. I think a cooperative, we needed to cooperate and sustain itself. So I personally, I don't know if I'd do that. But we have a lot of work to do.
I think having a location. Yeah, sorry. I think having a location for those gardeners to work in, just to get experience, I mean, yeah, it could be in existing homeowners' yards. I mean, I see the whole apprentice part of it, but it would be nice if they could get paid. And the Cook and the Gardener partnership needs money coming in. So that's why I'm leaning towards having a production space, so you'd actually be growing enough that you can sell, so that you can have money coming in.
Well, and that would be David's property. Actually, when I was there earlier today, I was like, I see lots of change around here. You've done quite a bit, David. Honestly, I mean, and it's such a large property, given the location, that it should continue to be that proof of concept. And it's already so well established in producing. It's very abundant.
It is, but is it producing enough to sell? I mean, can you get that cooked?
I know, and David's family lives off some of that, a lot of that food, so it's true.
So, yeah, in my mind, the market gardening part changes things from trying to create habitats in people's yards. So that's never been my focus. But, we can certainly consider that, and if the grant was out there to pay gardeners, we could find somewhere to do it. A lot of churches and schools and things like that have places that could be gardened, and do it more in a market gardening way. The problem with market gardening is that when your crops come due, everybody has that same crop. So if it's when we get to the Cook and the Gardener, when we get to the cook part of the Cook and the Gardener, my focus is going to be on how can we do the value added to make products, either meals, fresh meals, yard to table meals, or preserving what we produce in order to sell it in a jar.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, I'm wondering who we is as far as the cook goes, and maybe you just need to go to farmer's market and find somebody who's already there making jelly and be like, hey, if we brought you some fruit, would you buy it from us and make us some jelly? And you maybe put our name on it or something, like getting that relationship going so that you can go and produce more and know that you have a place to sell it.
Well, maybe, or we bring the cooks into the cooperative and make that two different revenue streams for the partnership, or partnership, I call it the cooperative, where the money coming in from the sale of prepared foods and the money coming in from providing landscaping services. Those are both contributing to the health insurance benefit and the accounting and the billing and all that other stuff.
I think eventually that can organically happen. I think what Jackie mentioned is such a great first step towards it. And it was exactly where my mind started to go, is partnerships. I think that that's where we should, I think that's where the things are getting muddy for me, is when we start to look too far ahead. And I have to remind myself, even with my own personal project, like starting at a beginning, the only way to eat an elephant is one little bite at a time. And so going back and considering like starting with partnerships and then eventually like more or less absorbing, those farmers, those producers as part of the cook aspect of the Cook and Gardener project, but maybe the 3-year goal. But the next 6-month goal, I think establishing a couple partnerships would be wonderful. One thing that comes to mind, actually 2 nonprofits. One is Women Who Work here in Denver. I'm still getting to know them, but it's, I believe, women coming out of incarceration, learning skills in the kitchen and becoming chefs. They go through training, they prepare food, and they have a whole kitchen. And then another one being Same Cafe, whom I've had a partnership with in the past. Now, not a lucrative one, they're a nonprofit, but I have donated honey to them, really as just a way to, of course, give to the kitchen first and foremost, make something amazing with this honey ingredient. And they've done, dressings, for example, but also secondarily as a byproduct to increase visibility of the people's bees and like create a name for ourselves as Cook and Gardener Project. And that's where partnerships and these fundraiser concepts really help us to get from point A to point B. That could be another great action item for David and I, is to look locally and see like who would be some great partnerships to have, even if we are just brainstorming about it. But I think it would be a good way to get juices flowing of who could really help us to get to that next step.
All right, we are a little over time, so I want to go ahead and stop. Yeah, I know it goes fast. Awesome. Yeah, those are some great ideas, this great conversation. Yeah, so next steps. Do we want to assign someone to doing some of these things, talking to people? Is there something concrete?
I will do research on prospective partnerships. David, would that be a good use of time? Do you agree?
Well, we're open to all sorts of partnerships. My focus is on getting the gardeners in place right now.
Yes.
We don't have produce to fuel a partnership with a cook until we've got gardeners and homeowners, and probably next season is the best, or next growing season. 2022 is when we would have produce that we would be able to talk about that.
Okay.
So yeah, certainly we can look into what is available out there.
Yeah, maybe partnerships right now today. You're right, David. I agree with you. Partnerships might be a little bit premature, but like-minded organizations who might be able to help us to amplify the message, help us in some way. Again, Women Who Work, if they're bringing in individuals who might be more interested in the growing aspect rather than the food preparation aspect, who knows? But so, yeah, maybe partnership's not the right word, but collaborations to help us gain a little more momentum. So I'll do some research on that. It wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
as well as kicking, or I might even, if I have time, I'm so tired, but draft up a fundraiser campaign before the next time we meet. And Jackie, if you have time too, I'd love to, like, what if we just put our heads together and see what we both come up with? And
yeah, I'm definitely going to look at that. That's my next steps. Look at fundraiser options.
Because you've got some great ideas, and I think if we came together with our own, like, fundraiser campaign plans, it could make one awesome plan.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna look at fundraising options. You're gonna look at other like-minded organizations. What about doing a little grant research? David, might you be willing to ask around if anybody knows where to look for grants or something?
I'm not sure who I would ask, but I can put it out on my social network.
Yeah, I'm sure just like your Denver permaculture groups, you know, does anybody know of grants that are available? Yeah, I bet they could point you. And if you do, and if you want to just forward it to me, I'd look at it in more detail, for sure. But if you could just take that first step of just crowdsourcing, you know, ideas, because just coming out there's a lot out there, and I haven't been in it for a while. So maybe I'm just thinking somebody who's looked into it more recently might just know off the top of their head what's out there. So.
Right. David, I do think I forwarded, I'm trying to find it back in December. I will forward again what I received from Carol. That might be a good place to start too.
Sure.
Okay.
And I'm going to send you all the languaging about this other audience that I want to just look to consider reaching out to. And you know, it's not, obviously it's not effective, so it would take some work to get it to that point, but I want to just put it out there so that we're all thinking about it.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined us, and anyone who's watching this after the fact. And we will be doing this again probably in 2 weeks. So we're going to schedule it, and it'll be on my website at regenerativerevolution.org. And I also have a Patreon. You can get all to that by my website. So and the links are below as well, and also to their website. So yeah, I hope you'll get involved, and we'll see you next time. Bye.